Welcome to the Visual Cast. Coming at you from California, I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we sit down with some of the best, most interesting, and most exciting visual artists from all over the world. Episode 18 is here, and we have one of my closest friends, the beautiful inside and out, Diego Mauricio, aka Prizma. Diego is a true artist, ranging from motion graphics and 3D to photography to web design and even psytrance music production. In the past few years, Diego has blasted onto the visual scene and taken up VJing and projection mapping, creating absolutely stunning visuals and pulling from his native heritage. His visuals are super light language coded and have a pure, authentic, and healing experience to them. We chat about growing up in Bolivia and then moving to Sweden, his first introductions to art, theater, and motion graphics, living in the jungles of Brazil making psytrance, meeting and befriending Tass in Brazil before Tass was even VJing, eventually going to Modem and seeing Tass play and getting mentored by him, photographing and videoing events, DJs, and art exhibits, coming to Israel where we met, and planting a seed that eventually bloomed into getting immersed in visuals and projection mapping. We get into Zapotec and the language of those and other ancient civilizations, studying and researching these ancient people and bringing their art and culture into the digital realm, keeping them alive and introducing them to a broader audience. For Prizma's set, he shows us his killer Resolume setup, his powerful layering technique with these ancient patterns, and how he makes them in Photoshop and After Effects, and some 3D projection mapping content for a cherry on top. Diego is truly one of my favorite people in the world, and a really close friend. It's been such a pleasure and inspiration seeing his journey, learning from him, and having my heart opened and inspired by him. This convo was no different. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with anybody you think will enjoy this convo and showcase. So without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Awesome collaborators, beautiful human beings, and just an all-around super talented person. Super happy to have him on. This is gonna be a great episode. Welcome to the podcast, Diego Mauricio, aka Prizma Visuals.
Hi guys, hi Alon. I'm super happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me. It's really a honor to be here.
It's an honor to have
with you
on.
And with all the visualists around the world.
Excellent. Well, let's jump right into it. So, Diego, hermano, mi amor, I consider you one of my closest friends, a true brother. Watching you evolve as an artist has been such a special and powerful thing for me to see. You've taught me so much through the years of our friendship, and I cherish every moment we get to spend together in person. From the moment I met you, I realized and recognized how much of an extremely creative, talented, and uniquely intelligent individual and artist you are. From filming and documenting some of the biggest artists in the scene, to performing as a VJ and being mentored by the master Tass, to projection mapping, designing, and creating content for massive brands, your career and path is unfolding in the most beautiful of ways. So Diego, as just to start off, as an artist who has so many talents and so many skills, how do you know where to focus your creativity and energy?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, it's actually a problem that I have been having through the years, because I've been working with music and photography and video production. But now lately that I'm working with projection mapping and visuals, it's much easier for me to focus my energy on that, because it's actually, even if I've been working with audiovisuals for such a long time, it's the first time in my life that it's I'm completely sure that that's the path I want to take, you know? So for me, it has been much easier to focus on that rather than doing photography and then switching to film, and then I had to make some graphic design for someone else, or maybe even a website, you know? I've been really touching all the audiovisual spectrum, and now I'm much more focused on one thing only, which
Nice.
actually has all the audiovisual parts, you know,
Yeah, it's all
everything. I
connected.
mean, audio, like visuals, not that much, but projection mapping is like audio, and then you have a design, and
For sure.
it's kind of how
Architecture.
every,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you can work with photography, you can work with 3D, you can work with 2D, you can
For
work
sure.
with just textures, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I think in general, like audio visual, like interactive or immersive is kind of like the, you know, the highest or one of the highest forms of art, because it does bring everything together. It's kind of like how, you know, making a movie is also kind of like you're thinking about, you know, acting and theater, and also about audio and sound and picture and style and story. So I think
light
visuals,
and
light,
yeah,
so many things involved, right? When you're doing 3D design, when you're doing projection mapping or something that is immersive and interactive, you have to think about all these things as well. So I'm super happy that
exactly.
you have taken this path. I think it's clear to me, at least, and I'm sure to you, as you said, that this is something that you're really good at, and you know, and you have a passion for. So it's just very exciting to see where you're going to go with it. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to little Diego, Piquito Diego. Growing up in, you grew up in Sweden and in Bolivia. Such a
Yeah.
contrasting kind of two different places, you know, like what was that like growing up in these kind of very unique and different places, and you know, how does it affect you now in your life as an adult?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing that I could say that affected me is that I try to take the best of each one of them, because Bolivia is like white and Sweden is like black, you know, it's completely different
I think the
countries and
opposite, no?
cultures, or the opposite. Yeah. So yeah, I think I actually grew up in Bolivia
Hmm.
my first years, so I consider myself Bolivian in a way. But yeah, living in Sweden for more than 10 years has given me so much in terms of professionalism and taking care of my business, of those things that in Bolivia are a bit less informal in a way.
Hmm.
So I think I'm pretty grateful that I have those countries in my heart and in my mind and inside me in a way, because I can understand also people from other cultures much easier, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So
And yeah,
I always found that amazing about you, that you have this kind of first of all, like an urge and an interest in different cultures, but also just an understanding. You're very empathetic towards, like, you know, the more, you know, European white culture, kind of like that idea, but also you understand this kind of more, I don't know, maybe the right word, authentic, maybe, ancient kind of civilization culture, with a rich heritage and power. I always found
yeah.
that really beautiful about you. When you,
Well,
yeah, please.
no, it's funny because I actually started to get really interested in the ancient cultures of the Incas or the Aymaras in Bolivia is when I actually moved from Bolivia.
When you left.
Because the moment I left Bolivia, I realized, because I don't know, sometimes we kind of uh, don't like the place we are for
Mhm.
different reasons,
Yeah.
or where we like to complain. And then when you don't have what you had, you start to realize what it was. So you
Yeah.
see it with different eyes. So that's exactly what happened with me in Bolivia, you know, because it's a difficult country to live in culturally, economically. different things are very like up and down. So the moment I left Bolivia, then I realized what a strong culture I come from, you know, and the connection with nature and all those things. It's things that actually came back to me when I left Bolivia. So what happened is that every time I go back to Bolivia, then I really visit all those places that I like, and I try to learn more and more about my own culture, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
I think a lot of your art and you know, your visual style or aesthetic is definitely inspired by or affected by your, you know, your culture, which I find very powerful. You know, I think that as artists, it's part of our, you know, it's part of our goal or our mission per se to reconnect those dots, you know, to bring those things to other people, to, you know, to remind people or show people, you know, of their heritage, of where they're from. And I see that in your art for sure. So did you, you know, did you have kind of the trajectory of artistry from a young age? Did you have people around you that were kind of creative? You know, what kind of threw you into this, into the loop? I know that music was kind of your first love in terms of creativity, and you know, you were a DJ. We could talk about that for sure, but I'm just interested in, you know, what was kind of your introduction to the creative pursuit?
Yeah, it's funny because my first thing in audiovisual was actually 3D.
Really?
And then music. Yeah.
Interesting.
I was working with Brush. I don't know if you remember Brush.
No.
It's a funny program, and you could make like water and landscapes. It was a landscape 3D.
Really?
Program, like very, very basic, but super fun. So I started with that and with Photoshop. But yeah, coming back to your question, I actually had a cousin that was into theater. So, and he was an actor and he was a musician as well. So he was like kind of my biggest inspiration, but not only inspiration, but the person in my family that took me to the theater every now and then.
Introduced you to it.
He taught me some instruments like the piano, and he had some synthesizers as well at home.
Wow.
So I was very inspired from him, and he was also like working a bit with photography and stuff. So he died
Sorry.
a few years ago, but yeah, he was the biggest member of my family that was inspiring me and teaching me about art, because my father used to write as well. He was a writer, but he wasn't a lawyer, so he was more working with laws than writing. But in the last years of his life, he wrote like four books.
Really?
Like
fiction books?
Yeah. He wrote a pretty fun book, and the book was quite big in Bolivia because it was called Jesus Boliviano, which means the Bolivian Jesus. Yes, and it was really big. The book, you know. Yeah, and it's a bit like between religion, but making fun about religion. You know, like he was
satire.
like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was like making a bit of fun of what we believe and why we believe, and how a Bolivian Jesus will be instead of from Israel or from the Middle East, you know.
From the Middle East, yeah.
From the Middle East.
Wow, that's so interesting.
So yeah, from that part as well. And my mother used to have a bakery in Bolivia, and he got kind of famous in us in the city where I come from, because she was making cakes, but it was like personalized cakes, you know?
Oh,
like, for
like
example,
with the names, and the
many of my
birthday.
friends had birthdays. So, no, she was making like literally like football fields with players and
Oh,
with
like
different
really
colors of the,
designed
the
cakes.
ball.
Wow, 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 wow.
Yes, yes. And my grandfather, he was working in the mines. You
Mm-hmm.
say like that, mines,
Yeah, like
like in the mountains. Yeah, he was like mine engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So in his 80s, when he turned 80 years old, my mother did a cake that was like a mine with a train, you know.
Nice.
So it was an actual train going on the
Oh,
cake, you know,
on the
like
cake, it was moved around.
it was a living.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You know, like this small
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah,
kids, you know, you
yeah,
have
yeah. The train
this
set.
train
Yeah, yeah,
that goes like this. So she made like a mountain, and the train was going through the
yeah.
mountain and going
Wow,
out.
so
Um,
cool.
so yeah, she was very artistic, but not knowing that she was artistic, you know.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, I think that it's this generational thing. I think, you know, people of that generation, they didn't really have the opportunity, or didn't have like the same inspirations that we have of like, you can be an artist, you can, you know, follow your path and create yourself this thing. It was very like, you need to go to school, you need to study a thing, you need to, you know, be part of society or whatever. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity in our parents' generation of this kind of like creative endeavor. It's funny, your
Yeah.
dad, I never knew that about him. My dad as well is a lawyer, and he's also a
Oh,
writer. Like,
okay.
he's also a creative person, you know,
Oh,
but
wow.
he got stuck in
Okay.
this mentality, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so interesting. We're so lucky in that sense, you know, that we had, you know, the starving artist is kind of, it was still like a thing when we were kids, but it was like almost like that's cool to be a starving artist, you know. It's almost like, oh, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, you know, that's cool, like to live in the, you know, to live like in shit as long as you're making your art. I'm very grateful for that, for sure, because
Yeah.
I think that if we lived in a society where it was like, you know, where being an artist was frowned upon or something like this, then it would have been a lot harder to realize that, you know, this is the goal. I mean, I'm sure you know, you've had this moment in your life many times where it's like, is this the thing that I should be doing? You know, should I go back to school and study whatever? You know, maybe it's money, maybe it's, you know, you don't feel like you're fulfilling your dreams, or you're not, maybe you even think you're not good at your art, you know, but there's always that moment. And I think that most people, if they don't have inspiration close to them, you know, or something that they can relate to, they're just going to be like, yeah, well, okay, I'm going to go back to school. Like, this is not the right thing for me to do.
Yeah. Yeah. But actually, I had a long break from computers in general, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and my camera and everything for like 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And during this time, I learned about carpentry,
Right.
and I actually never did anything with wood, you know. But suddenly, I was in my friend's farm, and he was like a woodworker freak with all the tools you can imagine. And I started to observe him, and I was a bit in this moment, like you said, no? Like, is really this thing that I want to do, or should
Right.
I try something new, you know?
Hmm.
So I dive into carpentry for like 4 years, and
Wow.
making all kind of things, like from
That's awesome.
making bands. I did like 4 bands, like caravans,
Right. I mean, that you're so
and
good
then
with your
I did some.
hands. You're so good with your hands. It makes sense. That's interesting, but it's still, I mean, that still is some sort of a creative endeavor, right? Maybe it's more like
It is.
an artisan, so you can kind of like, you know, use it as a career, but it is still mind creative, left brain, you know.
It is, yeah.
So
I'm a left brainer.
yeah, you're a left brainer for sure. When you so you started doing Photoshop and 3D design. What kind of shifted you from there to music? Like, was it because I know you're big in the psytrance scene, and a lot of people that are in the psytrance scene, especially from a young age, that's kind of like the first inspiration of like, oh, I want to do that. you know, or I want to be part of this scene, you know? So
Yeah.
was there a moment where you kind of shifted from 3D art or digital art to music, and why?
It was, I don't know exactly why, or I don't remember, maybe because I'm talking about like more than 10 years ago, you know. It's like, this is 2003, I think, or 2004, when I was doing some 3D, but just for fun, not really like serious. Oh, now I'm gonna be the best 3D.
No, you're not like a geek, really. You're not like like me. You're not like
experimenting and having fun with it.
Yeah. I lost you there for a second.
So I was living with two guys. One of them was producing psytrance every day, all the time, you know. and he was pretty good. He's still producing music until today. And I was so inspired from him because he was really like going for it, you know, like full on, like putting all his energy in it. And I remember that late in the night, when I came back home from work or wherever, he was sitting on the computer and I was sitting beside and just observing him, you know, like, and sometimes asking him questions about what is this and what is that. So yeah, and from him, I started to make music, and it was like a big shift in my life because I was having like a full normal job and I was having a girlfriend and I was like really following the system in a way, not because I had a girlfriend, but you know, it was like kind of going to a marriage and then maybe kids, and I was quite young for that, at least in my perspective. So I quit my job, I finished the relationship, and I went to Austria. For the first time. And then after Osora, I had this realization that I want to make music, I want to make art. It's definitely what I should do, because I was working with audiovisual in a way, but it was not a very artistic thing. It was more like doing graphics or fixing graphics for different things, you know, quite boring.
Technical or design oriented.
Yeah, more technical, yeah, exactly. Still working with Photoshop and not much After Effects, but Premiere, but very, very boring in a way.
Yeah.
So after that year or that summer, my life changed completely, really. Like I was so inspired about like chasing my dreams and chasing what I really want, not what are the expectations of my family or of other people. So it was a kind of, I felt free, you know. I felt freedom for the first time maybe in my life, like really internally, you know.
Yeah.
So I started with music, and I was actually working in the same time with photography. And I was making photography for different companies in Sweden. And then I moved to Brazil for 4 years. And my time in Brazil was the most like intense time in terms of music production. I was living in nature. I brought actually my whole studio from Sweden to Brazil. And I rented a house in the woods, in the forest, with a river nearby. And I was just producing music like all the time for like maybe 3 years.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, something that is nice and that it came back to me in my life now with visuals is like I was making tribal trance. So I was producing only tribal trance, and I was taking inspiration from Africa, from South America, from different tribes. And so it's funny because now 10 years later, I'm doing kind of the same, but with visuals.
The visuals, yeah. It's super fascinating. I mean, it's very clear that like that was at least to me, that was kind of like a springboard for you to pursue something with like passion, like here's your friend, he's like putting all his effort into it, putting all the energy, you see that, and then you're like, okay, I want to be part of this festivals, I want to do this kind of art thing, because you have to learn. It's like something that you have to learn to be passionate. Like, yeah, you can have passion about things, but it's a different thing to have passion about something and then to like take the passion and actually put it into action, especially like we said before, like starving artists, kind of like, understanding that you're not going to be TAS from the day one, or you're not going to be whatever, who's the famous DJ, Asterix from day one, or Infected Mushroom, it's going to be a journey, and you're going to have to struggle, and it's going to be difficult. And that's kind of like a very important thing to learn, I think, as an artist. I think that most of us who still do it after a long time have learned that lesson. And a lot of people that maybe are interested or do it as a hobby, maybe they either maybe didn't learn that lesson, or they learned that lesson and it's like, this is not for me. Because it's one thing to, do things as a hobby. It's one thing to do things as from enjoyment, but it's another thing to pursue it as a career or as a life, Yeah. So it's very interesting that you did it in the jungle in Brazil with music, and it kind of stayed with you until now. I love that. I think that speaks volumes to you as a creative person. So okay, so you're in Brazil, and did you, was it I guess you kind of were always playing with motion graphics and design as a kind of like a job. Like what got you into that originally? I'm going a little bit all over the place, but just because you said you played with Photoshop, and you're not like me. Like I'm a geek. Like I found these things because I'm geeky, like I played with computers and things. So I found it through that. Like, how did you find Photoshop and, motion graphics and design? Like, what was the, what how do you find that?
Well, in Bolivia, now we're going back in time again. Yes. When I was living in Bolivia, I have two brothers, and one of my brother is a very technical person, and he's like building things all the time, repairing the refrigerator, changing all the lamps, and doing everything at home. And I was like amazed by that. And he's older, so brother? I was like, both of them are bigger.
Okay.
So he started to build computers at home. Not many, but maybe she was building like 2 computers, and I was like amazed about what I didn't knew what it was even, because I was, 14 years old and just skating and doing my thing. So I started to like helping him, like building the computers, and after that he started to install different programs of the computer. So I started to just fall in love with the computer because of him.
Interesting.
And then with the time, I bought my own computer, because I was using his all the time, and he was all the time angry for that. So then finally I had my own computer, and I could play my own games. I was playing games, but it wasn't really fulfilling me like my friends or my brother.
Right.
I got tired like quite often and quite fast. Like I was like playing maybe half an hour, while my brother could be like there the whole evening. Sometimes I was playing more, of course, but it wasn't really my thing. And then I have my uncle from America. My father has 2 brothers, and one of them moved to America very early. So he was coming back to Bolivia to visit us, maybe every 2 years. And he was always bringing like technology from America. I'm talking about the 90s, like late 90s. Yeah. So he brought like the Super Nintendo with the Mario Bros.
Nice.
Yeah, so those kind of things. So he brought, he came one year and he told me, oh, well, you're really into computers, so you should learn Photoshop. And I was like, what is that? So he was the first person that introduced me to Photoshop, and it was super basic, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, no. He showed me Paint first.
Paint, MS Paint.
Yes, MS Paint, yeah. And I could like do things with, so I started, instead of playing games like my friends or my brother, I was playing with Paint. And then the next year when he came back, he showed me Photoshop. Yeah.
So interesting. I love that.
And then just to finish this history, I entered a small course of Photoshop in Bolivia before I was going to move to Sweden.
In the 90s?
Yeah, it was like 2000.
Okay.
2000. No, it was 2000, exactly.
That's
2000.
Surprising though that like Bolivia would have like a course like that, you know, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was both Photoshop and CorelDRAW, I remember. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. CorelDRAW. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I hear. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, no, it was a course really, and I remember that we had a picture, and it was some bottles in the picture, and all the bottles were the same color, and I remember very clearly when the teacher said, "Now we're gonna make each bottle a different color." And I was like, how the fuck you do that, you know? Yeah, exactly.
That's so great.
So yeah, I remember my first piece in Photoshop was to changing colors of buttons.
That's interesting that you, like, you know, even from such a young age, you kind of took your interest or your hobby or like what you enjoy and decided to like, okay, I'm going to try and make this more serious. So like, I'm going to do a course, you know?
It was a bit more like my family, because the thing is that when you finish the school in Bolivia, you automatically go to university. There is no, like in Europe, you know, like we have like, okay, I finished the school and then I go to travel now for like 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. Or maybe I just feel to work and save some money and then invest in something else, you know. This kind of reality, it's impossible in Bolivia.
Interesting. Why?
Yeah, there's how the society is built for the first, and then economically there is no room for young people to work.
So it's because like go to school market, and then go to the marketplace.
The market is very saturated with I mean, sometimes you have a taxi driver who is actually
professor or whatever,
physics engineer, you know, whatever.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's very difficult. So we decided to move to Sweden because my mother is actually half German, which you maybe didn't know, but she speaks German and she's half German. So we always had this connection with Europe. So we were about to move, but we were like waiting for some papers and some bullshit like bureaucratic things. So I had like 6 months from when I finished school until the day I was going to move to Sweden. So in these 6 months, my mother was like, no, you will not be, you know, at home just doing nothing, you know. So either you choose a course or I choose a course for you.
Oh, okay. Classic mother.
Yeah, which I actually until today I'm super grateful that she did that, you know. Yeah. So I was like, fuck that, I'm gonna choose my course. So I started to look for courses and whatever. And actually my cousin that I told you about, that he was an actor, he told me about this course. And I took this course, which was actually not 6 months, but it was like 3 months and a half or something.
Right. But it gave you like a window into like what this could be like as a career, what this could be like as a job. Yeah,
it was like it was way too much like theoretical
Theory.
things. Yeah, it was too much,
That's annoying.
and a little bit of practice
Mhm.
with the computers and stuff, which
Did
was a bit
you
boring for me. But yeah,
did
it
you
was
start
good.
working right away after that, like in design?
No,
No.
no. I moved to Sweden after that, and then I
Uh-huh.
started the school again, kind of. Uh, and I
Studying?
was
What did you study?
I was leveling my knowledge because the how I could explain that the the Bolivian and the Swedish uh, schools are very different, about
Of
what you
course.
learn and how to learn and everything.
Right.
So you
And the
in
language,
order
no?
to and the language, exactly.
Yeah.
So in order to start to study something else, I had to go pass by this school first
Gotcha.
with people from all over the world, like really, like everything from China to Japan, and
Wow.
actually one Bolivian and a lot of
Nice.
Chilean people. And so I started to study mathematics,
Wow.
physics, uh, like um, like leveling up my level to a Swedish
So
level
you
from
can
a
go to like a
Bolivian
proper
level.
university kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I started the school again for like 2 years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, so fascinating. I mean, I wanted to ask you a little bit about like cinematography and video, but I feel like I'm more interested in VJing at this point, and like maybe through that you could explain it. But what did when did you find VJing first? What was like the first kind of before you wanted to do it, right? Because that's kind of semi new. It's pretty recent, but just being aware of it. When were you aware of it? When did you see it as an art form? Projection mapping as well. I consider projection mapping and VJing kind of the same thing. Yeah, tell us about that a little bit.
Nowadays, especially.
Nowadays, especially, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's funny because now we're gonna go back in time again. So the first time I went to Brazil, actually I didn't move to Brazil straight away. I went to Brazil. I travel around. I fall in love in the country. I fall in love in the language, in the food, and everything. And I said, okay, I need to move to this country. At least live some years in this country. So I moved back to Sweden. I kind of finished all my things in Sweden, and I moved to Brazil. But in this trip, before I moved to Brazil, I met Taz. And I'm talking about 2011, maybe.
Oh wow,
Oh,
so early, huh?
11,
Interesting.
yeah,
So it's even
2010 or
before he
11.
was. It's even before he was like big.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was not into visuals at all.
Hmm.
But he was into audiovisual creation, like he was telling me I do some graphic design, and because I told him that I was with my camera all the time, so we connected through that, I think. And so we started to talk about audiovisual creation, but in that time we were very young and we were like super into DMT and other forms of plants in Brazil. We were like discovering this world. So, but we became pretty good friends at that time.
Wait, you met
And then we
George in Brazil?
I met George in Brazil
No
2011.
way. What was he? That's so
Yes.
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So actually, that's funny because you said that he's kind of my mentor, which it is in a way from that time,
Right.
Because
Right.
then after some time, I went to modem for the first time, and this is maybe 2000, what it can be, 15, 16.
Okay.
It was one of the first modems I remember. And then I don't remember if it was the first or the second time. It was my presentation to projection mapping for the first time.
Yeah.
At modem,
Yeah.
And I was super curious about what is this, who is doing that, and how the fuck does this work. So one friend told me, the guy who is making that is from Austria, is my friend, and his name is George. And I was like, George? I know a George from Austria, and he was actually working with graphic design, you know? And it turned to be him, you know?
That's so funny.
So I remember one modem, I met him at the dance floor, and he was with a phone or with a tablet, and he was controlling the Resolume or whatever from the dance floor, and he gave me for one moment for me to play as well. But it's funny because I got interested, but not interested enough,
right,
to start doing that, you know.
Right, you were curious.
I just thought it was super cool, yeah, and it felt so far from my knowledge, like how do I even like project? I don't know. It was just maybe too complicated for me to even want to understand. And I was doing a lot of photography, and I was super happy with photography.
It's like also it's very like, you know, it's very digital and very kind of like computer, and photography is like light and it's you know, aesthetic, and you can feel it. You know, it's like a very, I'm sure your mind was kind of like, oh, I know how to do this. I'm focusing on this. Like, this is cool, but, you know, I get that.
Yeah. And I was also like, always wanted to do everything at once. And, you know, and in the end, I do nothing. So I was, no, I have a camera, and I love my camera, and I'm doing good money with that. And it's going well, you know, so I was interested, but not interested like taking it like seriously as a career for me or as a big hobby, you know?
Question about that. You know, I just thought of something like, so it just reminds me, like when I was in film school, that's also when I got into VJing, like around the same time. Also like modem was my first inspiration, and kind of like, you know, I want to do this. But you know, my dad taught me like a really, because I had this question of like, okay, I'm in film school, I'm studying film, I'm really focused on this, I really love this, but visuals are fun, and I can see like the passion. And I was like also in the same thing of like, well, if I do too many things, I'm not going to do anything. And I remember he said to me like, don't even think about like what you want to do as your future thing. Just do things that make you feel good and enjoy it, and it will naturally, like, you'll naturally figure out like what it is that you're gonna be good at, or opportunities will come, you know. Very simple advice, right? But like as a kid or as a young adult, I was kind of like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, I'll just continue what I'm doing and things will happen. I wonder, like, for you, do you think that that's limiting? Like in a way, obviously it's hard to say like, okay, if you did this and you did that, like what would happen? But just like in you know, for maybe people that are younger or kind of like figuring this out themselves now, do you think that like in a way it's good to just try everything, or is it like in a way maybe good to focus on things to kind of like then understand what it is that you like? I don't know, just kind of popped into my head.
Yeah. No, it's a good question, especially for young people and for people that are starting, you know, because you don't need to be young to start something either, no. Or even young
young in the thought, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm not. I had some periods of frustration, of course, because I was like. All over the place, like one day Photoshop, and the next week I was into Illustrator, which of course everything is kind of the same, but you know, either you're a graphic designer or you're a web developer or you're a photographer, you know, or video producer or videographer. So yeah, it's it has been really a ride, but I'm super happy that I did try everything, because now I finally found something that kind of covers everything I know in terms of composition and lights and depth and colors and everything frequencies, you know, like everything I tried, it's there finally, you know. I'm that's why I'm so inspired, because it's like everything I learned through the years, I can combine it in one thing finally, and it's pretty free and it's pretty artistic, and yeah. So I think it's a personal thing also. Like some people just like to be more straight, like I
Focused.
want this, and they go for it. And there is people like me that likes to kind of touch everything and then see what it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, I wonder, like, would you have found VJing anyway? You know, like,
Maybe, I don't
maybe,
know.
right? But now you're saying, like, because you tried so many things, that when you did find the thing that you love, you kind of are good at it, right? Because you have so many different things. It's an interesting thing, because it's
Exactly.
like, you know, not every art form needs that thing. I guess actually no, I take that back. I think any art form, if you have the understanding of other art forms, is going to elevate that, right? Like if you're a stills photographer but you understand graphic design, you're going to be a better photographer, right? If you're
Exactly, yeah.
if you're a musician and you're making music but you understand, I don't know, lighting and cinematography, it's going to allow you to kind of make your music more, cinematic and immersive and things. I think there is something to that, right? But then it's interesting because like somebody like Tass, and I'm not going to speak for him, but he's a type of person. He's a very focused guy. He's a very straight focused guy. I wonder, for people like that, if there is a benefit to trying so many different things, or is it like, okay, 100% focused on this and then become the best at that thing? It is a personal thing, I guess. It is individual.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in a way, I mean, in today's society, it's, I think, being focused, it's the best thing you can have,
Right, because there's so many things, so
because
many
we
distractions.
live in a society where it's like so many distractions just
Yeah,
in your pocket. You just
yeah,
take
yeah,
out
yeah.
this thing in your pocket and you can distract yourself for hours without even knowing it. Uh,
Swipe.
so I think in a way it depends. Like if you have focus on now, like what you're doing now, and also there is this focus thing about like more global
Bigger picture.
thing, like the bigger
Mm.
picture of where are
Hmm.
you going with all these things, and then you have this moment focus, like what are you doing? You are doing just that,
Right,
and
right.
you are not like looking your phone every time, or just going to do something else, or watching a YouTube video in between, or whatever. So I think I'm pretty good at that. I
Mm.
can be very focused for a long time, and I can be very fast developing things because I can
Hmm.
be focused. Uh, but yeah, in the bigger picture, maybe a bit more all over the place.
Yeah, but it's not all over the place. It's more of like a bigger picture, which actually, is a very, I think it's a very good trait, because it allows you to see. This is also I wanted to ask you, like, it allows you to see past like money, career, which are ephemeral. This word ephemeral, like they're very momentary, right? Like a career is,
Mm.
it's an important thing, but it doesn't really mean anything if you're not happy with it at the end. You could be the CEO of a
Exactly.
company, but you don't like it. And the same thing with money, right? It's very important to have money, but if your pursuit is money, it might not be very helpful to you at the end. Um,
Yeah.
when you maybe not always choose projects, but when you manifest or think about what the things that you want to do are, um, you know, I know as a person, focus a lot more on meaning, and, what's the thing behind the thing. Beyond money, you focus a lot on, like you were saying before, on kind of like bringing your heritage and your culture to a wider audience, and focusing on, like when you were making music, you were focusing on tribal music, which is not like the most commercial, right? It's because you saw a deeper meaning and understanding in it. Is this something that is this natural to you? Is this something that you kind of learned or figured out? And, I know for myself, I never, like, I grew up in a comfortable house. We weren't rich or anything, but money was never kind of like a goal. You know what I mean? Because it was never like, oh, I'm not poor, so I didn't feel that need for money. But as I got older, the pursuit of money was very like, okay, well, maybe I do want to be rich, or maybe I do want to have more things, you know? And then the more money I make, then the more problems and the more expenses. So it's like, it becomes like a little bit of a thing, but I never had that as a pursuit. And I think it allowed me to, see things in a different way. I'm interested from your perspective as well.
Yeah, in terms of money, like you mean nowadays or in general in the past?
Yeah,
because
I think in the past,
my economy has been very not really stable.
Oh yeah, tell me
but
about
always good. But sometimes some periods of my time or my life, I had a lot of money, you know.
Yeah, like
But
how do you keep the focus? How do you keep the focus? How do you, when you have a little bit of money or you have a lot of money, how do you keep the focus of like the true meaning is beyond the money, you know?
Yeah. Well, nowadays, for example, I remember very clearly, like 2 years ago, when I was very like, okay, this visual what I'm gonna do, and I want to make like visual art much more. So I want a job that is still is related with what I do, but that is like a part-time job,
right?
You know.
Right.
So I was contacting different people, and I started to work in an audiovisual company here in Barcelona. And I didn't like the work at all. It was like full-time job as a video technician. So I was there like for 2 months and I quit. And I told to my boss, look, I'm really good at other things in the audiovisual things, but I'm not a technician, you know, it's not for me. So he told me, okay, I'm going to talk with some people in the TV station and maybe we need your services there. So I was lucky enough that they needed someone who could control Resolume at the TV, and it was 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, and quite good salary in terms of Spanish salary at least. So I accepted that, and I'm working there until now. Nice. And it's perfect, you know, because I work just between 3 to 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then the rest of my time I'm with my family, making sports, and of course making my art. So for me, a full-time job, it's not gonna happen. It's impossible. It's just it will kill my soul, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that when you know what you want, it's also something that I learned in this thing that jumping from one thing to another.
Yeah.
Is like when you know what you want for real, like from your soul. I think that the universe is gonna provide. You know.
Yeah.
When you're a bit like confused about maybe this, maybe that, but yeah, this, but not 100% from my heart and from my brain and from my energy. I think the universe has less meaning to provide you what you need in order to reach there.
Yeah.
So it's a profound enlightenment I had the last years, you know, like really trusting the universe as long as I'm true to myself. And things evolve pretty.
Yeah, that works because it's like the universe. The universe doesn't have an agenda. You know, the universe is just the universe, and you are creating the agenda that the universe is going to provide for you.
Exactly.
So if you kind of have that circle of like, oh, this is good for me, this is nice for me, the universe is going to provide things for you that you need. And if you're just comfortable and kind of static, then the universe is like, oh, he's fine. I don't need to give him anything. He's okay. I think it's very.
But Alan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to go back to your previous question.
Okay. Please.
About VJ, because I didn't finish that question because you are involved in that question.
Oh wow! Lucky me.
So you asked me how did I start with VJing, and then I told you about Taz, that I met him in Brazil and whatever, and then I I received a message from Daniel from Infimensions,
Danielian.
telling me about something in Jerusalem, some projection mapping thing. And well, we met at Osora before.
Yeah.
Briefly.
But
the same year. Yeah, the same year we met at Osora. Yeah, not many days, but I think we connected straight away. At least for me. And then I went to Israel with Daniel for that project that you remember, and then we went to your place, and then we started to develop a project. We three, this Reactor project. And actually, you were a big transition person from photography and video production to VJing, because we were in your place, and you had this lip motion thing, and you had this VR thing, and even I think the suite, you know. So you were a big inspiration for me to start making visuals and projection mapping, because I actually had the lucky. I felt very lucky to be in your place. We were in your place for maybe almost a week.
Yeah.
And we were like in the computer, like talking about our project, how we will do, and you were showing us different things from projection mapping. So after this trip, when I came back, I was like, okay, this is really something that I want to do. And I started to check for courses in Barcelona. Really? I did a course for 1 month, projection mapping course.
I know that. Awesome.
And it was quite bad, actually. And it was €1,000, you know.
Oh wow!
And it wasn't good. It was good in a way, but I couldn't work with projection mapping after that course, you know.
Right. It wasn't like a proper.
Yeah. So time passed, and then I met a good friend of mine. Her name is Karuna. She's from Brazil, and she's super all the festivals for many years. And she was living in Barcelona for many years, and I told her, look, you see that we were in modem, and I told her, you see that I want to do that, you know, maybe not here, but in my life.
Yeah.
And she told me, you know what, my ex-boyfriend, like 14 years, they were together for like 5 years, but it was 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's working full on with projection mapping. You should contact him, and he lives in Barcelona. And I contact this guy, and I told him, look, I'm friend of Karuna. We met in Universo Paralelo many years ago. Maybe you don't remember me. He did remember me, and he was, listen to this, he was having his studio in front of my place.
Oh, no way.
In
Barcelona?
In Barcelona, literally in front, and his company is called Dark Light Studio, and he's quite big. He's making a lot of different projection mapping things.
So crazy.
So I contact this guy, and he told me, look, come to my place. Of course, let's meet. Come to my place. This is my address. And I looked the address, and I was like, no way, man, it's in front. You know?
That's so funny.
So I went to his studio, and he was working with some project, full on, whatever. And he told me, look, I do courses of projection mapping. Through the government. There is a program in Barcelona called CIFO, which gives courses of the whole audiovisual spectrum in terms of production. So you can take video production, photography, and he's making this projection mapping course, which is, listen to this, is 3 months, is 4 hours a day, Monday to Friday. Okay. It's like super intense, and it's completely for free.
Wow, amazing.
So I took the course. I had some money saved, so I said, okay, I will not work for 6 months, and I'm gonna just do this. And I took this course with him, which is called actually narrative projection mapping course. Wow. So it's more like you work with a script, and you're gonna develop a history and make the which was a game changer for me, in terms of understanding the whole thing, everything from budgeting, from theoretical
Technical,
things, and technical as well, like projectors and which lens and which projector, and the distance between the projector and the surface, and everything involved. And
but also like the creative aspects, of like the content
and also
how to tell the story.
And not in depth in, like, for example, After Effects or
but theory, like, or
3D. We had some courses of 3D, but very basic, like from someone else who came to give the course for like 2 days maybe, just to give an understanding about what it is. Luckily, I knew about After Effects very well, so I the course was giving me a lot because I could at least After Effects, while I had most of my companions, they could Photoshop and Illustrator, but not really more than that, So that's how I really entered the field. Everything from like a course in Barcelona and friends in the festivals.
Hell yeah, dude, that's fucking awesome. And that's, like you said, that's the universe providing, right? Like, here's
exactly.
You open up your mind of like, okay, I want to do this. You express it to the world, your friend's like, oh, I know this person. The person's in front of your house. Beautiful. I love that. And
the coincidence is that the contact with the TV program where I work now, it's through him as well.
Oh, wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
so
because
like
I mean, he's living in Barcelona for maybe 20 years, and he's like, he has been studying in the university, like, so he has contacts. A lot of contacts because he's based here, like, totally.
So yeah, I mean, we just want Daniel, our mutual friend Daniel Savinsky, Navi, Infini mentions, a super amazing artist. I love him so much, and that trip to Israel also changed my life. I mean, I'm sure you remember, but that was we sat in a ceremony together, and that was the first ceremony that I sat in. And I actually have this here.
Really? It was the first one.
It was the first ceremony that I sat in. Yeah, I mean, I had experiences with psychedelics before, but never in like a, spiritual or, I don't know, ceremonial way. And it was super powerful for me. But also, besides that, the ability to collaborate on art with friends, I had never experienced that before. I had a mentor, Dorian was my mentor for many years, and I had like that experience of like sitting with him and working together, but never like just for like the act of creating, because we came up with a good idea and we had this really crazy download, and it was very like clear we want to do this interactive installation, but it was just like, it was more of just like, okay, we want to do something together, less about like the something, you know what I mean? And that's like, that was like such an important part in my career, in my journey as an artist, to really feel that, that year, that summer prior, I had gone to, I played my first modem, and, it was like, it was a very like, highlight of my career of like, oh, I reached my goal of playing at modem, and I had this opportunity to spend like a month with one of the designers of the stage, Richard McKenzie, and I got this really strong inspiration and understanding of what it means to be like an independent artist, like what it means to be like a living on the road or living in your studio, and kind of like, just what it means, like how does it feel? And it was a very big turning point in my mind of like, okay, this is something that I want to do, but I want to do it differently. I want to do it in my way. And having that experience with you and Daniel at my house in Israel was so, like, connected so many dots of all these things that I had learned, but I didn't really understand what they meant, So yeah, for me, it was also super inspiring.
Nice.
Okay, we're gonna jump into your set in a moment. I just want to ask you one question, because this is actually related to our trip, your trip in Israel, our experience in Israel together. I remember a conversation that we had when we had hummus one day. We had hummus a lot, but one day when we had hummus, me, you, and Daniel were talking about art as like, as where does it come from? What's like the driving force? And I was like after film school, and I kind of like, had gotten that bullshit art school kind of experience of like, art is trauma, and like, the best way to talk about art is through your trauma, and it's like a therapy and everything. And I remember like talking with you and Daniel, like, we're all like, we all had like really good childhoods, and obviously trauma is like it's subjective, but thank God none of us had really difficult times, but we're still pursuing this kind of like art form, and we want to express ourselves. And I remember like getting to this point of like, that the idea of art through trauma or expressing your trauma is not necessarily a rule, right? It's not necessarily how it works. It can be a really good form of therapy, and it can be a really good driving force. But I think for us, and I remember in this conversation, we all came to the same conclusion that for us, the driving force of art was from a place of abundance and like good, and like wanting to express that outwards, to then create like more good and more abundance. Yeah, I mean, please, like, share that knowledge with us, because it's so potent.
Yeah, totally. While listening to you, I've been thinking about that. For me nowadays, at least, because I mean, we're always evolving, and what we thought 5 years ago maybe is irrelevant today,
Yeah.
So I think that art, it's just another way of communication, It's another way, instead of talking with each other through words, we can talk with each other through music, through colors, through different frequencies, like so nowadays I see my art as a form of that. I have such an urge to feel that I giving something for people to just remember nature, and so I think that's my driving force, beside all many other things. But what I realized with the ancient people, at least in Bolivia and Brazil and Peru, is that all those people are their life is around nature in terms of not only physical, but also like when you're gonna make your vegetables, when you're gonna make your things, your rituals, your ceremonies, everything is around nature, and their god is the sun, and the goddess is the moon, and the water has a spirit, and the mountains has the spirits as well, and we're surrounded of spirits that are like us, So for me, I want to communicate through my art that nature is alive, and it's seeing you, and it's hearing you, and it's feeling you as much as you are doing the same thing to them, So that's my form of communication, because I feel that through words I will not reach that, or maybe I will reach that, but I think it's much more beautiful to it in terms of visual.
Well, visuals are also like a visual, or just frequencies are much more universal, right? Like language is bound by, location and the other person understanding, but a drawing or a sound or a picture is going to be universal, or at least we hope so. Definitely, if you come from the place of nature, then it's definitely universal, right? Because that's all what we are.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
So
that's really beautiful.
For me, is that it can be a therapy as well, of course. But for me nowadays, more than the therapy, well, it's a therapy in the end, because I feel fulfilled when I can express myself in terms of things that I think are beautiful. Maybe someone else doesn't think that, but the most important for me nowadays also is like this validation thing. I've been struggling with. I think we all struggle with validation in different things in life, because it's an ego thing, and we all have ego. And so nowadays it's really like the things that I'm creating is that I really don't give a fuck if people likes it or not. Of course, I get happier if people likes it. I will not say the opposite. Yeah, but the source of my creation is not about that. Then if I get gratification for what I did, of course I will be happy, and I'm more than happy to share. Otherwise, I will never share on Instagram or wherever, you know. But it's such a nice and beautiful feeling to do something that you like with a meaning, and not giving a fuck about what others gonna think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And especially when you're creating from the point of trying to express something as base and pure as nature, then it's never going to be about like people, you know, liking it or people validating you, because you're just doing it as a form of expression of the universe, you know, like kind of. I always think about like you know, cave paintings, or like excuse me, like Shipibo patterns, or like, you know, ancient Peruvian patterns. Do you like, you know, I always think like, did the artist think to himself that this is gonna be popular? You know, like did he think to himself like, this is a work of art, or was it just like, oh, this is what the universe is showing me? Or in cave art, you know, this is a way to retain history. You know, it's like, it's interesting because when we think of art today, right, like especially when it comes to like music, I think the music industry is much more bigger in this, but even in design, it's all about like how many followers you have, how many people are watching you, how many, you know, are you viral, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing, right? Because it can be good. No. It can be good, especially if your goal is to help people and make the world better. The more people you reach, then the more better they're going to make the world. But if that's the goal and that's the original thought, then you're going to lose, at least from my perspective, you're going to lose kind of the birth, but you're going to lose the baseline core value of wanting to express yourself.
Exactly.
And then
and the most interesting thing, sorry that I interrupt you, but is that it's not going to be long term. You know what I mean?
Right. It's ephemeral. Yeah.
Because I think long term projects has to be real. Otherwise they're gonna automatically be a short-term project.
Totally.
Because it's not real. I mean, real in a way that, like, you know what I mean.
Totally. Like real, in the sense of like impactful.
Impactful, but not only impactful, but real in the sense of yourself.
Authentic.
Like inside. Exactly. That was the word that I was looking for. Authentic in a way that it's coming from you, from like inside out, rather than outside in and then out again.
Right.
So I think when you find that, then it's much easier to have it like a long-term project, and you're gonna reach much wider and longer because it's something that really resonates with you, you know. And it's not only about what they will say.
Right. Fuck them. No, I'm joking. Cool. I totally resonate with that, and I think that no, not fuck them. We love them. We love everybody. Cool. Let's jump in. Let's jump into your set. Let's see what we got from you here. We're going to jump into Diego's set right now, what he has ready for us, and he is going to show us his Resolume, and I'm going to let him take it away. So take it away, Diego.
Hello, guys, again. Okay, so I'm going to start from a empty project. Because I have other projects and they're super messy and a lot of layers, and I need some time to understand again what I did. So usually I start I work with a lot of layers. So I try to work with less layers and prioritize other things before, but I'm gonna make my best in this one. So usually what I do if you can see here, these files in this side, it's like different different lightings and different things in each one of them. It's the same form, but it's with different lights, like this one. I don't know if you can see that. It turns red and then black again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna start with this one. And then on top of it, I have, you can see here like the names, like each one of them dashes, it means like it's just like lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I render them in red, and they kind of follow one part of the picture, like this.
Beautiful.
So what I do, I put like I render 4 of them in different. Like you can see that this one is.
Hey. Sorry about that.
This one's in the sides. This one is up and down. This one is like taking more the whole thing. So what I do is like I make them to play randomly every 2 loops. So with that, they're gonna all my goal is that they're gonna change all the time without me doing anything, you know?
Like autopilot.
So yeah, exactly. It's a bit autopilot. So what I'm doing now is like kind of the base of this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then effect that I use a lot is called what is it called? Well, I come back to that later. But anyway, then after that I have the backgrounds, which are those ones. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, the background changed there. And I do the same with the backgrounds, so they are changing all the time. So they have a background, which is those ones, and they change every 2-3 loops. So what I do is I choose all of them, and then I put play random clip, and then I can choose here the loops, how often they're gonna change. So usually I have like 2 or 3. And then I usually have like a base, which is this one. In this case, I have different bases, and on top of this base, usually I have like different dots and points and dashes and lines and everything, which you're gonna see now. For example, this one.
Nice.
And then I add in the next.
Contrast.
So the yeah, it's the contrast, but the idea, the concept behind this is that I want to make something that feels that is living, you know, like an organic
entity
body in a way. Yeah. So if we think about our own bodies, where even if we don't do anything, everything is moving all the time inside us. Our blood circulation and everything in the brain and all the organs, everything is like constantly moving, even when we sleep and all the time, you know. So I think life is about change and movement in the same time.
I love that.
And that's connected with nature, no? So the idea of my visuals are that like they are connected and they are moving constantly and changing constantly. So for example, here I can have another layer. can have. I usually render things in red, and then I change the color in Resolume. It depends the project, but yeah.
Yeah, you have a base color, and then you can kind of manipulate it live, which is going to always give you more variation. I really love the aesthetic. It's one thing to take a Shipibo pattern and animate it. It's another thing to break it up into lots and lots and lots of layers, and really getting this kind of, it's like your own version of it, which I just really love. It's very, it is very organic, even with even though there's not, and this is not like a bad thing, but it's very simple, right? There's still a lot of movement and organic feeling to it. And I think that's like a lot of the layering, just having a lot of layers that they're not just like layers that are making things messy. They're layers that are like complementing each other,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the idea is basically that, and I'm gonna just put another layer on top of it. And these ones are dots. So
nice. Oh, cool. Yeah, you really start seeing it when you change the color. It's really powerful.
Right.
It's nice.
Exactly. So
nice.
What I usually do in the end is to put a hue saturation and make something like this, and then
nice.
Everything is changing. So yeah, and then I have many patterns like this one. Like this is a Shipibo pattern, but it's I change it a lot as well. It's my own version of that, and then I have like many different. So what I usually do, I start with one pattern, and then going through the party, I start to change to another pattern. And usually I start with the simple ones. This is one of the most, not complicated, but more like there is many things happening, And I have some other ones that are more chill, just to start the night, if you want to.
And this is in After Effects you're making this?
So yeah, the base, I don't think the resolution is enough to see it, but the base of it, it's 3D.
Okay.
Because
you
I
can
like
see
to have
there's like some
depth.
shading. Yeah, there's some depth.
Exactly. But all the lines and the dots and all what is moving, it's After Effects. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's Illustrator and then After
Illustrator,
Effects.
so vectors. And are you tracing Shipibo patterns, or are you starting them from scratch?
It depends. This one I started from scratch. I bought an iPad and an iPad pen or iPen, and I'm working with that now. So I usually have a Shipibo pattern on the side, and then I try to
create
to draw it in my way. And then when I feel ready with that, then I transfer to the computer. And then I open Illustrator in my computer. I fix it a little bit because I make it in Illustrator in the iPad. And then some things I take it to Cinema 4D, which is the 3D program that I'm working on. And then the rest, it's in After Effects.
Cool.
So, yeah. And then I have been doing other, like for example, This one is more 3D-ish,
Wow.
which has the same, the same
Base pattern.
patterns, the same lines, you know. So what I did in this one is a 3D, obviously, but all the lines that you see that are moving are from After Effects. So what I did is that I exported a movie from After Effects and I use it as a texture in the 3D program.
Right, on the UVs.
What the heck?
On the UVs.
Exactly. So yeah, I did like different
Nice. Oh, I like that one.
tunnels. Yeah.
And the
And it's
geometry,
really nice.
the geometry is just freehand, or is it like some sort of, it's like a cloner or something like that?
The geometry, it's
Of the tunnel.
It's
It almost
an
looks like you wrapped it
Illustrator.
around in some way.
It is an Illustrator file. It's a Shipibo pattern,
But you extruded.
and I extruded, and then I wrap it like you said,
Super
and then
cool.
I had a floor on it, and then I made the tunnel
I love it.
with some lights. Yeah, it's pretty simple as well, but
But it's effective.
I think
It's effective.
it works. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
also
then,
like it's not too 3D where you're, you know, like my work is very 3D oriented with like a lot of shadow and light. Here it's almost like animated, like a, you know, it's not photorealistic, it's more like an animated kind of thing. Well, there's still depth, but you don't feel like you're taken out of it, which I really like. I think it speaks a lot to the aesthetic. You know, because I think if it was too 3D, it might pull away. Yeah, it's really nice. I love what you're doing with this, dude.
Nice. I'm happy you like it. And then I usually use masks in Resolume, and this is like a normal round mask thingy. And then like
Oh, cool.
I have like different things in the mask, so I can like play with the composition and respecting the space of the other things, you know. So for example, this one, and sometimes I can just like maybe having just the
Center.
ball
Yeah.
or
Love it.
the
It's very thought out. You know, there's a lot of like it's clear that you've thought, like you worked backwards, right? Like, okay, what do I need to do to make a Resolume show, and then utilizing like your talents in 3D and stuff like that to be able to work with it, which I like that a lot.
Yeah. Thank you. And now lately I've been experimenting with
AI.
AI. So I've been developing these faces, which I really like, and I'm very happy because I've been like I'm using Discord, so I tell to the program that use this image, for example, this one that we are seeing now, and then I write the prompt. So I wrote like mythological shamans from the forest, whatever. So I got these guys.
Nice.
You're
using Midjourney?
Yes.
But for the animation, what are you doing for the animation? Does Midjourney do video? I didn't know that.
Okay, so the animation is done in After Effects with different things.
Oh,
so
it's just a still image, and you're just displacing it and playing with it.
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
Exactly.
Cool.
It's just like normal displacement and because I'm learning to animate with AI, but all the animations I've seen with AI is like you can automatically see that it's AI, you know?
Yeah, it's like shimmering and moving and stuff.
Yeah, and it looks cool. It's not bad, but
it's just it's an aesthetic. It's like its own aesthetic.
It's all the same, you know?
Yeah.
And
I think so
I
too.
really want to keep my touch on my things, and then don't just be like
Everybody else.
this, yeah, or this same, like. Uh, so yeah, I've been working with these creatures from the forest, or like old shamans. And I think the AI really took my lines and my dots and all the things that I do and converted it into these masks, or these faces.
Yeah, like you still retain your style and aesthetic, but you can,
Exactly.
get fast, interesting looks. I've also been
Exactly.
experimenting with
Exactly.
AI. I have actually an AI button here, but it won't work right now because I need it's heavy, so I need to have my laptop. Um, but yeah, I think that it's useful for textures, for getting fast things to look good, and like what you're doing, where you're bringing in your aesthetic and telling the AI to generate things based on your aesthetic. I think is a very it's a very good way of using it. It's not just using
Yeah.
it
Exactly.
like to be trendy or to like I don't know, make something cool, but it's like it's actually different, and it's actually following your aesthetic, which I think is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just using another tool, but
Mm-hmm.
still in
In your
your
style.
way.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I could do that, and then maybe.
And when you're doing mapping, are you? I mean, obviously it's different every time, but are you doing slices, or are you doing like 3D mapping with the models and things like that?
Well, it depends the project and the what is gonna be mapped, no? But usually I use slices. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
You hear me? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I said that usually I use slices for
slices.
projection mapping. Yeah,
Slices. So you're using the textures that you already have, and then you can add them to slices, and you get different variations, different times. Every time something different.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
love it.
And then there is there is an effect that I have it, but I can't find it now. Okay, whatever.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, it's an effect that moves. Wait, I think now I have it. One. So this, I don't know if you can see it, but it makes the whole thing moving like um, a, a little bit. So it feels more
Yeah.
like living a living.
What is it doing
See?
actually?
It's
Like a
just like,
wave?
yeah, it's like a wave,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, but very very gentle.
Very nice. Very
Yeah,
subtle. Very, very subtle.
exactly. But when you have like what I realize when you're projecting in big surface, subtle things feels like you can feel it really a lot because it's such a big area of projection. So you don't need too much things to to make it move.
Right. You just need some simple,
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Super nice.
So this is one, and then I can show around again. This is very shippable.
I love how you're approaching this with like the bass in 3D and then the lines on top of it. It's very interesting. It's,
Yeah, I
giving
really
me lots
like
of
to,
ideas.
that's nice. I really like to layer things because you have more control about what is happening or what is gonna happen.
Right, right.
And
You get
and
different
then
variation as well every time.
now I didn't do that, but when I'm playing live, usually I'm changing from one to the other, but layering them, so it feels very
Hmm.
natural that you are changing from one aesthetic to another one. You feel me?
Interesting.
And then this one here.
Nice.
I have
Killer. It's like a stepper, but the stepper is on the content. I love it.
yeah, exactly.
Taking mapping
Yeah.
mapping stuff into it. Nice, nice. Yeah, it's clear that you've been using Resolume for a while. You know what you could do as well? You could actually make this stepper a mask of the bottom layer of the bottom behind layer, so that it reveals like the bottom layer every time. And then you can make
It's
it black
true.
and white.
Yeah, yeah, I can do that as well. It's true. So I have this.
Nice snakes. Snakes.
Snakes. It's part of the
The Shipibo.
of the concept of, well, Shipibo, but also like other cultures in South America. Is the snake?
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful spirit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which controls all this underworld.
Yeah. The serpent.
So yeah, so it's very powerful to work with them, and they are very organic, and you can make like different, like small and big, and with different shapes and different textures. I think it's super fun to work with. And then I really love to use the hue on like almost all my projects. It gives this psychedelic feeling, no? Of
Yeah. Like inducing a trance of some sort.
yeah. So like those ones that I showed, the first one and this one, I have maybe like six or seven different
Uh-huh.
ones with different patterns and different things, but still the same concept of having like lines and dots and all those nice things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for now my concept when I play live, for example. Um, but now I'm working with more like Andean stuff from the mountains, because those are more like, the feeling is more
Rainforest.
like yeah, exactly, rainforest. But the new ones that I gonna start next week is more like Andean from the mountains and has some other
Mm.
feelings. So I'm excited to see when when I connect them, you know, in my projects.
Yeah, like what happens? What door gets
Yeah,
unlocked?
exactly. And
Super
then
nice.
I was doing this one has the snakes, but they interact much more with the
Oh, it goes inside and
thingy.
outside of the animation of the
Exactly.
lines.
E-
That's cool.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. So
More depth.
uh, yeah, it makes a lot of depth.
And these are animated in cinema?
Yeah. So this is the base, what we were seeing here. Well, not that one, but the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And then from here, usually I export this one to Cinema 4D in order to have it more with depth and play with lights. And then, for example, those ones are just lines with blue, and I export them in After Effects. And in After Effects, I made them like dashes or points or
Right. Like
different.
3D line effect.
Yeah, exactly. And then
With
I
masks.
animate them. Exactly. And then in this layer, I have those ones like the.
The highlights.
So everything is kind of ready to animate. Is what I try to do in Illustrator. No, I have a file and I have many layers. I'm a layer guy. So I have a lot of layers here. So when I export it to After Effects, then it's like just ready to animate. If you want, we can jump to After Effects.
Yeah, I'd love to see how you're doing it. Yeah, for sure. It's always interesting to see the different techniques. I was saying before that, you know, shape people patterns. I also do a lot of drawing with them and stuff like that. But the layering of everything is very unique, and I think it gives you a lot of. It allows you to do a lot more things. You know, being able to animate things like that, I think, is very nice.
Well. Yeah, so here, for example, I have those ones animated, and I use
Lots of layers. I see. So you're using each one individually and then putting them in one company.
Yeah, exactly. So if I have it individually, then I can then I can choose like, okay, I like this one, so I can export just this one.
Right.
And then I have like everything in one, and then I go somewhere else, and then I have just those ones. Maybe I like this one with other one, then I can just
Can you show us the Can you show us the effect a little bit, like how you're breaking it down into how you're animating it, the effect, and how it works?
Okay, yeah. For example, these ones, and so it's like the stroke here. You have the dashes, then you click here in the plus button to have to open the dashes, so you can, and here you can choose, like, you see that they can be like points or lines. Then they can be like bigger, like this. So here is really like just what you feel in the moment, you know.
Yeah. And this is over the map. So
And
you're importing the Illustrator file as masks, right? They're coming in as masks. Is that correct? Or are they just vectors?
when I export from Illustrator to After Effects,
No, when you import. 'Cause
when I import,
if I remember correctly, like to use the 3D stroke, you need to use masks, right? It doesn't work with a vector, or does it? I don't remember.
I don't use 3D stroke. I use normal stroke from After Effects.
Normal stroke, and that works with just a vector, like just the Illustrator file.
Yeah, so look, the trick is like, for example, this one is just the lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I import that file to After Effects, and then it creates a composition, and inside the composition you have the
actual
Illustrator file. Yeah. So if you right click on it and you choose create shapes from vector layer, then
okay, so
then
shapes.
it create a shape, like it will be like an like an After Effects shape.
Interesting.
And that gives you the possibilities
To do all the
to
line stuff and animate it.
Exactly. So here, for example, this one, you enter in a stroke and then dashes, and then you put dashes.
Interesting,
Now,
because I remember
very
the
small, no?
you know, the old style of you know, a saber. You know, saber, that effect.
Yes.
So for saber, you have to convert it into a mask. You know what I mean? There was like a whole process that you had to do for that. But this is this is way more straightforward.
Exactly. I did use Saber, but like you said, it's like, for me it's too complicated.
Yeah, it's a lot of
one of the things that I learned with the years, you know, we were talking about all this multimedia and making video and photography and all, and even music, you know, is like what I always think is like to keep it simple. Because if I keep it simple, I rather have 20 simple layers than having a very complicated. Yeah, exactly. So, and I try to use that in all my creative process, you know, just to straightforward, simple, and it gave me results. At least I like it, and I feel inspired of it, you know.
Yeah.
So, for example, in this one, you see that this part, it's just a line. So if you push the button of dashes here and plus, then you have the dashes here. Then what I usually do, I made them round, so they are more organic. Like the endings are more round. And then here I can choose the stroke width, and then maybe I want it bigger, like 8. And then maybe I want to change color to red. And then here, if you push the plus button again, then you have another gap, so you can play with the gaps between the.
Ah, interesting. So it gives you like more variation.
Yeah. So you see, just this movement, it feels like really like organisms, you know?
Moving around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the combination of that movement with the people pattern, which is already kind of like an organic, you know, mirroring of nature. Yeah, you're getting really nice results for this. I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the process. Like sometimes from a paper, then to Illustrator or Photoshop first, and then Illustrator, and then After Effects, and then some Cinema 4D, and then Resolume. So that's my workflow usually. And I really like it, you know, because I really like I really like Photoshop, and I feel very comfortable with Photoshop because it's my first program ever, and I know a lot of this program, so it gives me a lot of possibilities already in Photoshop. Then I go to Illustrator, and it's more like mechanical in Illustrator, like
Right.
just
Technical, yeah.
just make everything vector, so it looks nicer, it looks sharper, it's easier to animate in After Effects. And also I work with everything I do in Cinema 4D is usually a Illustrator file from the beginning.
Right, because you can just easily extrude it. It's easier to do for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. So Illustrator is really like a point of intersection from many programs. It's an important program in my workflow. And my next step in all this creative process, it's actually Unreal, or either Unreal or some other generative program. The real time,
Touch Designer, probably.
Maybe. I don't have the time to dive on it now, but I think after this summer, usually I have more time. So I was actually booking October, the whole October month, on just focusing one of those programs.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I mean, Unreal is not generative. It's real time, but it doesn't have a lot of generative stuff. But it is very real time. I'd say like the cream of the crop for generative is for sure Touch Designer. But it depends like what your goal is, like really, because like generative can be done so many different ways. You can make generative stuff in After Effects, I think that it's mainly like what is the goal. Like I'm just thinking now, like there's a really cool program called Synesthesia. I'm sure you're familiar with it. So like that is a cool program where you can like ingest layers in a smart way. There's like different techniques, and then you could have your like Shipibo layers, but it's just being altered and changed in a generative way, which is pretty cool. Because I see like the what you're doing with Resolume. It's a really good base, right? It's a really nice place to start. It also allows you to build this aesthetic and style, but I could see where it could get limiting, because even if you have multiple layers, you have different types of animations, eventually you're going to get to a point where it's like, okay, well, rotating the hue and adding like a movement is the same every time, and then I'm not like limiting you, like you're obviously a creative person, you can come up with different ideas, but I just think that you're going to want more. And because you already have established this workflow of different layers, with animation, stuff like that, it could be interesting to just bring without animating it, you have the layers, you have the vectors, bring the vectors into a real-time software like Touch Design or Synesthesia, whatever, and then in those softwares animate them. You know what I mean? So you kind of have the same structure, but you're getting a different type of animation every time. I think that could be very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit what I do, no? Because I like to have like different layers, like different clips in the same layer, so they can like change from one to another.
Exactly.
And it's a bit like generative kind of.
It's random. But it's not generative, it's random.
Exactly.
And randomization is going to create some sort of feeling of generative.
Exactly.
And they are generative because you're literally animating them. They're just not generative real time,
Exactly. And then something completely different that I'm working with now. It's actually about the World War II.
Okay.
In Germany. And
my favorite.
It's a concentration camp in Germany, and this is a tower that is going to be projected.
Oh, like a building, like a tall building.
Yeah.
Wait, you're projecting onto a concentration camp?
Yes.
Oh wow!
Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah. So this is like a completely different style, and it's full 3D with lights and everything.
Love
So
it.
my concept in this one is that first this is like a jail and it's like suffering and it's very bad, and then it becomes to something beautiful.
Pretty.
So the idea is that from something dark we can also create something beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
And this tree is with white leaves, and it means like liberation and peace, you know. I can show the first one that I did, which is
Okay.
pretty special for me.
Okay.
And
Let's check it out.
I know this specific pattern, it's inspired from the Chacana, which is the Cruz del Sur, you know, like this. I can show you here. I don't know what is the name in English, but this. Oh. You know, this one, and then cross.
I don't know this one.
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Chacana, the word sounds familiar. It's like some sort of like higher power or something like that, but I don't know this power. I don't know this one. I like it.
Yeah, it's written here. Look, it's an equal armed cross indicating the cardinal points of the compass and a superimposed square.
Like the compass, like your inner compass kind of thing. It's almost like chakras in some way.
So the significance of the
What,
Chacana, it's a bridge between the three worlds: the world of the gods, the world of man, and the world of the dead.
What is the culture? Is this Andean?
This is Andean, yeah,
Andean.
Andean. So the inspiration
Love it.
comes from there.
It's so
the
interesting
crosses.
how throughout all the cultures, throughout different continents, right? There's always these like similarities in patterns, in ideas, and I always just find it so crazy. Like you're talking about the Andean culture specifically is also like super untouched. It's in the fucking mountains. Like nobody knew about the Andean culture for generations, right? They were very in their own thing until they came down.
Yeah,
At least that's how
exactly.
how I was told about it. And it's just so interesting that they have similar, gods, similar spirits, and similar patterns to so many other cultures. It just, to me, that like right away makes me say like, oh, that there is truth to this, that this is true, this is real,
Yeah, totally, man. So this is one of the first ones I did, which is a bit messy because it's too many layers, because it was really
too many. Come on.
and there's
Is there an element of like meditation or intuition when you're deciding like what parts of the pattern to cut and what part of the pattern to like layer, or is it more like aesthetic, like this is gonna look cool with this? Because I would,
it's
yeah.
it's like it's different every time, I would say. It depends about the piece I'm doing, if how connected I feel with this piece, and if there is some specific things that I really want to share or to show, or if it's more like a cool thing, no? I rather don't I prefer to don't think in terms of cool, because anything can be cool in a way, depends how you see it.
That's true.
But I try to more like make it organic. I think that's my goal. So if it feels organic, then it's in the right direction, in a way.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this, for example, is all the time changing, no? The colors, the forms, the lines, I don't know if you can see the details, but
of course. Yeah, I think there's a lot more, like a lot, like I could just see the progression that you're going through with adding the 3D, kind of adding the depth. I think there's a lot more to be done with that.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I'm just
Also,
like really,
exploring other cultures, because I have
yes,
been exploring the Shipibo culture now, but I mean, there is tons of cultures in South America,
of
which has
course,
been which are not so popular like Shipibo, but they make crazy beautiful art as well.
yeah. I'm
And
gonna
I use a lot of Pinterest in my
to find
creative
things.
process.
Hmm.
So in my that time, I don't know, in my on my way to the work, or
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
I'm like laying down in the bed or in the hammock in our patio, usually I just bring Pinterest and I start to look like different things, and I make like boards of different cultures actually. So I have like
Hmm.
that's what I meant with long-term projects, when you have
Hmm.
when it's real, then it's automatically becomes a long-term project
Mm.
because it has such a depth in what I want to create, no? So my goal is to explore a lot of cultures from South America, and usually the ancestral cultures from South America were very connected with the power plants from South America, which is San Pedro
Hmm.
and San Ayahuasca and
Hmm.
another Wilca, and other plants
Wilka.
that
I don't know this one.
Wilca, yeah,
Master
it's
plants.
it's yeah, it's DMT
Tobacco.
Wilca, but tobacco exactly. So these people
Or
were,
my favorite, the coca.
for example, yeah. But the difference with coca leaves, they are very sacred. It's true, but
Hmm.
they are not. They don't alter the mind, the conscious in the
Right.
same way
Right. Right. Right.
like the DMT or San Pedro.
Hmm.
You connect with nature in a way, of course, but
Yeah, it
they are
opens your
not.
heart.
Yeah, they are not so
Vision inducing.
exactly.
Hmm.
So. So yeah, and it's interesting, because more I'm reading about those cultures, more I know how they use those plants.
Mm.
I mean the doctors at that time, who were like healing other people,
Mm.
they had these plants like almost like a university for us nowadays.
Right.
Because they could talk with the plants, and they could get knowledge about which plant could cure different diseases or different
Right.
pains. So it's super super interesting how they use psychedelics in that time, and how we could use that in our modern time,
Totally.
and implement these plants, and this knowledge in these days, that are, I think, is it's a perfect moment for our society to open up to psychedelics, really, really, really. It's like, or we start to really legalize psychedelics and accept it, and implement them in our society, or we might extinguish.
Extinct. Yeah, go extinct. No, I totally agree.
Yeah,
It's we speak about this a lot in the podcast. It's just like a natural conversation because I think that you're totally right. It's we're at a
climate
turning
change.
point. We're at a turning point in our society, in our civilization, where we've had access. I mean, if you think about it, in Western culture, we've only had access to psychedelics and plant medicines for less than 100 years. I was just doing some research on this, but yeah, I mean, like one of the first white Western explorers to write about and talk about San Pedro. Actually, it was actually peyote. Is from the 18 something 1896, something like this, or 1876. So it's very new. And then if you think about that's like very like, you know, niche culture. It only became part of like the zeitgeist in the 60s, you know, with acid, with LSD. And then, you know, Maria brought the mushrooms to our culture, you know, also in like the 30s and 40s. So it's very interesting, you know, where we are as a culture, because these things have been used in cultures for thousands of years. And even in modern culture, you know, you have Soma in Hinduism, and you have the Euclidean mysteries in Greek culture, you know, ancient Greek culture. And these are all kind of things that have been around for a long time. Obviously, the ancient cultures have been using it for even longer, but it wasn't really part of our society until very recently. So it's interesting for me to see, like, is this going to be, you know, the next advent in our kind of evolution, or is it going to be something that holds us back and, like you said, is the end of us? It does seem like the trend, you know, like now you have like psychedelic therapy, you know, with like ketamine, and you have MDMA becoming more and more therapeutic. I'm really interested to see like how does it talk to our culture, because it's like sometimes in culture when things become popular, they get destroyed, right? So like, you know, now you have ayahuasca tourism, right? Which could be a good thing, but it could also be very destructive, you know, if people take advantage of it and try to use it in a way to, you know, control other people, or just for money, or, you know, destroy the heritage, you know. But it could also be very beautiful, where like people are going once a year as like a school trip, you know, to the Amazon and drink, you know, drink some ayahuasca. I think that's very powerful. So I don't know. Only time will tell. I think that, please.
No, continue.
No, I think only time will tell, and I think that it's like our, you know, we have a responsibility, right? We have a responsibility as artists, as, you know, I mean, the podcast for sure, people that we're just talking to people, but, you know, we have a responsibility to safeguard and hold people's hands, and make sure that it's being used in respect, and make sure that it's being used not like to make people trip out or you know, go crazy, but to like go deeper inside of themselves and understand that really the medicine is you know, you're the medicine. I am the medicine. I am God. And, you know, I am God, like I'm gonna control everything, but like God is me, I guess is a better way of saying it.
Yeah, no, totally. And also like it's not only about these power plants in my perspective and in my concept as an artist, but it's the whole cosmovision they had, and what they believed in, and why they believe in these things, and how they could, for example, construct such a big things with stone, without any like advanced cutting machines and everything, you know. So it's very, very interesting how they made things that we cannot explain now, you know. For example, in Bolivia we have this this place called Tiahuanaco, which is like like the famous place in Peru, which is called Machu Picchu. And there is like tons of things there made out of a stone, that this stone is found very far from this place.
How?
And how they brought all these stones to this place, and how they built such a big things with stone, you know, without any machinery, or I don't know what they use, you know. And they also, something that is very interesting is that they were very connected with nature. So because they were connected with nature, they could produce abundance of food for the people, you know, for themselves.
Which is like a problem that we're having now, right? In modern society, where there's not enough food for people. I
think there is enough food for people.
Well,
but it's food that is
it's bad,
that is
right.
Chemical, you know. It's not organic food.
It's poison.
But what I want to say is that they produce abundance for their people. So because they had abundance, they could grow and explore new places, no? So the Incas, they grow from Bolivia and Peru all the way to Brazil, all the way to Argentina. You know, they really covered the whole part of the mountains and a big part of the Amazons. So they had contact with the Amazon people in the Andes, and they were like sharing information, and sharing knowledge, and sharing food. So it's very interesting how they could survive in such a difficult. I mean, living in the mountains. I don't know if you've ever been in the high altitude. It's not easy, you know. It's very cold. It's very dry. It's when it's sunny. It's very sunny. It's very difficult to survive in those conditions, and they could really create abundance out of it. You know, it's crazy.
Despite the difficult, harsh conditions.
Yeah, because I mean, in some parts in Brazil, it's just lay down in the hammock and you have some mangoes and bananas just there, you know, and then you can fish a lot of fish either in the sea or in the rivers, and then it's like it's abundance, but provided by nature itself.
Right.
But what these people in the altitude did, they produced abundance using their knowledge and their connection with nature.
What do you think?
They were experts in seeds, you know. They were like upgrading seeds in that time. So the seeds could be stronger and make more fruits or more vegetables.
What do you think what do you think is there? Like, what do you not the catalyst, but what do you think is like the knowledge? What do you think they knew?
I think they were the most important thing for them was the stars. They could read the stars. They could read because they could read the skies in the night. And then they could make a calendar, and they could know when is good time to plant, when is good time to harvest, when is good time to rest, because they were aware about what is happening out there. It's actually affecting us here in the earth, you know. So they had calendars, like full on calendars, really. Like there is a ton of websites where you can read about that, and they were like reading the stars and connected with that, and knowing through the stars when is good time to harvest, when is good time to plant, to do all this process. And I think it's all about they were just connected with Mother Earth, you know. It's just as simple as that. It's not that difficult. Then maybe there was some aliens around.
You think so?
I don't have proofs, but I could imagine that it could be, but I'm not sure. But it could be, especially when it comes to architecture or what they build. It's
hard to understand how they did it. At least, if not aliens, then at least some sort of forgotten technology, right? That we just don't understand or that we can't fathom. You know, something like we are all around electricity and microchips and fossil fuels. Maybe they had something that we don't even understand. You know, maybe something physics that we don't understand. You know, it's always like. Yeah, please.
Sorry, there is an interesting theory about sound and the Andes. They say that they had instruments that could make. And they could levitate, not themselves, but they could levitate objects. Yeah. So through frequencies of sound, they could levitate all these stones.
Which is not science fiction, right? It's not science fiction. We can do that now. It's just like nobody's really unlocked like the way to do it as like a as like a real thing. But I mean, we have the ability to do that now, right? You have the ability to output sound that can levitate things, right? I mean, it's not like it's not super science fiction. I think that's very possible for sure.
Yeah.
I'm
So
trying
yeah,
to
it's very
find
interesting.
this pattern, because continue what you're saying, but I have this this pattern because we're talking about different cultures. It's a Zapotec pattern, and it's from Mexican, not Mayan, but like Zapotec, which is pre-Mayan, and they're the people that were basically the only people that were connected to peyote, because peyote only grows in like 2 places in the world. Like San Pedro is amazing because San Pedro can grow anywhere. It's like a weed; it can grow anywhere. But peyote is very, very specific to like 2 places in the world, and mostly in Mexico. So they have a very interesting aesthetic and style, and I can't find my my thing. I'll just open it online, I guess. But it's super cool because it's a very interesting and unique kind of pattern that is kind of similar to Shipibo, but not at all. You know what I mean? Which I just find super interesting. And I met this guy in Puerto Vallarta, and he would go and talk. He was very connected to the Zapotec tribes, and they're very hard to reach. You can't reach them by car. You can't reach them by. You can't even hike to them. You have to fly in with a helicopter.
Wow.
They're very now. Obviously, modern culture, it's different. In 2024, but he met them in like the 80s. And he basically saw this art that they were making, and it's like, whoa, this is like super, super high level art, super amazing. It's stuff like this, this kind of like very, no focus, but, very
Wow.
colorful. And I have another one. This kind of like peyote button, like this is all with, with beads. It's like all beads, like tiny little beads. So yeah, he would go to them and then kind of study and help them and basically bring their art to modern, and he basically made them a lot of money. I mean, money, they don't care about money, but it's more about like help them. What he did was he would provide beads for them, so they were having like a hard time getting beads, so he would like bring different types of beads to them, and then he would help them modernize their techniques so that they can sell their art as like a high fashion art. Let's see if I can find something interesting. So this is like
amazing.
This is the actual Zapotec patterns. That's more akin to like what you would see in like a Mayan temple. These kind of like very sharp lines. These like very sharp lines, which is like kind of similar to Shipibo, right? Maybe like less like organic, more like harsh lines.
Yeah.
And it's super fascinating because it's like there's like lineages of like different artists, right? That would like pass down through the generation, like different types of styles and aesthetics. Luis Castro is one of the main guys, and like it's like look at this. This is a big piece. This is a massive piece, right? That they're like working on it for like a year. They can work on these things, right? And they're still using like the old type of techniques. They're using like beeswax and beads, to like put over like this huge like piece. And I have a few pieces at the house because I just love this aesthetic of like this very vibrant and very like colorful. But you can kind of see that like throughout the different patterns, there's like a language happening. Let's see if I can find this guy, because this guy, he ended up becoming like a very famous designer. I think it's this guy, Florenzo Lopez. Um, and when I bought the piece, it comes with like this like a key, you know, where it's like this pattern means this, and this pattern means this, and this pattern means this. So I kind of like took that and tried making my own, you know, thing from it. So you see,
totally.
like,
I can see like
you see like
wow.
You see like each one is like a different pattern that's repeating itself, right? Like this here. This is exactly what I want. So each of these patterns, right, means something. Here, this is a really good example. So you see this repeating pattern, and this repeating pattern, and this repeating pattern. Each one of them is like a word. These people, these cultures have been doing this for generations, right? They're not making Shipibo patterns or making these, you know, these beautiful bowls for money. They're making it as a way to take nature, take their culture, and make it into something like a higher vibration. You know, take a higher vibration like ayahuasca or San Pedro or these master plants, and bring it down to a 3D, to the third dimension, with art, you know, with patterns. And I just love that. I feel like that's something that we should bring back, you know, make that what we're doing as artists, you know.
Yeah, but it is actually a little bit what I'm doing with my art, you know. You don't need to be tripping in order to experience
it,
or appreciate it. Yeah,
or you don't have to go to the Amazon or the Andes, right? You can get it in your living room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. So I mean, we were kind of like, you know, we're already kind of talking about it, but you know, ceremonies and medicines and ancient cultures, like, you know, I mean, obviously we've been talking about it, like you bring it to your art, right? Does it feel like a mission, or does it just feel natural? Like, do you feel like the mission is to bring this to your living room, or is it just kind of like you want to make art and you want to make art at a high level and a high vibration, so therefore it's happening like that, you know? Or is it like a full-on mission for you? Like, are you really trying to do this as like a, you know, as like a making the world a better place?
Yeah, I think there is a purpose for me that I moved from Bolivia to Europe. And I mean, Bolivia, it's a very difficult country, but it's one of the countries that is less connected with the Western mentality of thinking, or overall how the system works, you know. The system doesn't work in Bolivia because people are constantly watching the government. And there is always social problems because the people is very like being like very, I don't know how to explain, but they know exactly what the government is doing or what they want to do next, you know. So in that sense, the government has power, of course, but the people doesn't let them to have too much power, like maybe here in Europe, you know, like there is tons of laws that no one knows, and they are like new laws about maybe even your own security or your own privacy, but we don't know about them, and they're, you know, the system is done in a way, so people doesn't care so much about the new laws of the government or the new things that is going on. Maybe if they really are really bad to you, maybe people will be in the streets and doing something. But in Bolivia is this constant fight between people and the government, you know, which I think it's very, living there is not easy, you know, because it's always some social problem. But in the same time, the people are still very powerful, you know, because the government cannot do whatever they want because the people is after them, you know.
The
So
government
it's
can't do whatever they want, you're saying, or because the people. But isn't it like semi a dictatorship or no?
this is the funny thing. It's what they want. They try to do for many years, but they cannot.
Ah, you mean the people don't allow it to happen?
No, no. I mean, the 2019, before the pandemic, the government wanted to do some new laws, and the president wanted to be reelected very illegally. And I mean, my family were with homemade weapons in the streets.
Really? Like getting,
And I mean,
wow.
and I mean, my brother is not at all a fighter, or
Violent, yeah.
I think he has never been to the army, for example, or he's a engineer. Like, he's nothing to do with. But you know, the mentality there is like, if you they were trying to do the same thing as they did in Venezuela. And now Venezuela is completely fucked up because the people let the government to do that to
Well,
be,
you know why though?
Actually,
the American government got involved.
yeah, of course, but the Bolivian people in that sense are very, very powerful, I have to say, because they don't let the government do whatever they want. And if they need to be in the streets with homemade weapons, they will do it, you know.
Was it bloody?
So, and it didn't came to that point, but it was some parts of the country were bloody, yeah, but not crazy bloody. But what I want to say is that my mission in life, in my artistic me, is to like kind of at least try to use this knowledge and keep it alive to this modern time here in Europe and also in Bolivia, you know, to make this, to have this importance, you know, because I have been showing it to people that don't know much, and they were really curious about the cultures, and they wanted to know more about them, you know.
Really?
And I was very happy because that's my goal, you know.
Yeah, it's like working.
My goal is
it's working well.
To make people curious about these cultures and about these things through my art, and that's the best revenue I could have, like much better than money, you know.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of money, we were talking about money before, and what I wanted to say then was that money, it's sometimes I want to see money as an
extra,
when
like
you do not extra, but when you do something, it's something that comes naturally back,
right?
You know,
right,
it's
right.
like
it's not the main goal, but it's like the thing that comes like extra, like a cherry on top, on top.
Or is the result of something that comes naturally, you know?
Right.
So yeah, in terms of art, I think many artists are kind of trying to copy the other one, or just like doing what people likes, you know, more than what they like.
Yeah.
And I think if you just follow your path, it's like a circle, you know. Things are all the time evolving and changing, and at some point, the society gonna catch your art, you know. Just do what it feels right for you.
Yeah, and that's amazing advice.
And if there is a purpose in the art, more than it looks good and it looks really nice and it's such an animation and it's 3D and it's 2D and it's 4D, whatever. It's if there is an intention, if there is a purpose behind, it's gonna evolve also.
Yeah, and it's gonna touch people in a way that it wouldn't before, right? In a way that you don't even know. Like you said, you show it to people that don't know anything about art or don't know anything about this culture, and it's like, oh, I like that. It's like, well,
yeah,
you know, that's not because like I make good art necessarily, but it's because I'm using the intention and, you know, pushing the intention forward. I think that's, you know, really potent in terms of like how that works. You know, that's really, it's true. That's real. You know.
Yeah, and actually, I was visiting the house of Dali here in Barcelona.
Oh yeah, nice.
And something that I was very impressed about him is that he was really working in different periods in his life. He was researching a specific themes or a specific things very deeply, you know. And that made me because I mean Dali for me it's really like it's not my style necessarily, but it's such a genius, you know, in terms of art.
Yeah, of course.
And he was really traveling from dimensions to dimensions. So just knowing how his life were like as an artist was very inspirational, and he was very like the same, like I was talking about, like long-term artistic projects, you know. It wasn't like, okay, I make this drawing today and then let's see it later, you know. It's like I make this kind of drawings during all these 10 years of my life to discover something that I'm curious about, you know.
Right, to go deeper into something. Yeah, I love that. I want to, you know, we're getting to the end here for sure, but I have two more questions I want to ask you. One of them we kind of have been talking a lot about, you know, like kind of this idea of art and spirituality. You know, it's a form of healing ourselves, healing the earth, healing others. You know, I think that we've really touched on it a lot, and I kind of, maybe it's not even worth going back into it, but yeah, I think that when you do have the intention of your art to kind of like want to make the world a better place, then it's going to do that, right? And even if the person doesn't even feel it or doesn't even, you know it, like if your intention is to heal people with your art, it's going to do that. And I really like, I feel like you're a lot of people for sure in like our scene, you know, kind of come at art with this intention, you know, especially VJs, because I think that we're so, you know, we see the effect of like the visuals right in front of us, right? Like if you put something that's strobing and crazy, people are gonna react to it. Whereas if, you know, not that the strobing and crazy is the bad thing, but it's like if you have a strobing and crazy thing, but your intention is like to calm and your intention is to like, you know, diffuse or something like this, you can really feel it in the dance floor. So I think it's important like to remember that we have some sort of responsibility when we're doing this type of thing, and that like it doesn't matter what the content is, it matters what the intention is, I think. I wanted to ask you about, you know, your van, kind of as like a, you know, a little bit of a cherry on top at the end. You know, what does it mean to you to kind of live this nomadic lifestyle? You know, how do you maintain this kind of experience? You travel a lot back and forth between Barcelona and Sweden and Portugal as well. You know, so, you know, what is this idea of travel and nomadic lifestyle mean to you, and kind of like, you know, what is the future for you?
It's nice. It's funny that you mentioned that. Well, I have to say that my nomadic life for for full was back in time, like between 2016 2018. I was really living just in my van and traveling around. But nowadays, we do have a van with my girlfriend, and we bought it in Sweden. And because I have family in Sweden, then it's like a normal thing for me to go to Sweden. And then I rather take the van to Sweden than a flight, because we have dogs and we have many things, and we really like to travel. So the nomadic life, honestly, for me, if I'm traveling for too long, I get it's not good for me.
Really?
Yeah, I need a stable place. I realize, because I thought that I were more nomadic that what I thought, but for me, like traveling 3 months a year, it's more than enough. And maybe that's nomadic for many people as well, because many people has just a few weeks of vacation every year, and that's it. But for me, it's very important to have like at least 3 months outside my comfort zone and outside my house to recharge and to learn new things, So for me, like traveling is really like trying to get to know new cultures and to open my mind through that. And this adventure is a soul, I guess I have, that I really like to visit new places and to meet new people and new food and new senses in general. So yeah, our van is ready for the summer. We are actually installing solar panels to it.
Oh, cool.
So we're gonna be completely
I can't wait.
Self-sufficient.
Nice.
And the idea is that the power of the solar panels is gonna be enough for the refrigerator, which is new as well. We bought a new refrigerator.
Nice.
So we
can't make visuals with the solar panels yet.
No, so that's the goal, that I can have the refrigerator and the computer.
Laptop. Nice.
Actually, the big computer. It's
really?
my goal.
Oh man. Yeah, because that's exciting, dude. That's really exciting.
Yes. Yeah. Luckily, I have a really good friend who is a DJ, and he also have been working with visuals back in time. Not visuals, but graphic design. And he's super good in installing and doing all this electrical part. So he's working for me, and
awesome.
And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to share my van with you in summer.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait. I always like you and Daniel and actually a lot of people in the US have vans as well. I'm always so jealous, like maybe not jealous, but like I'm always so envious of like this kind of like just the ability to like you said, like if you do it for too long you get a little bit homesick or whatever, but just the ability to be able to do that is such a beautiful thing. Me and Yael, my wife, we kind of decided that whenever at some point we're gonna leave America and hopefully go to Europe, like our goal is to, before we do that, like sell all our shit, buy a van, and travel across America with the van with the baby. I've never done that before. I've done like small Euro trips for a month with a van with friends, but I've never done it like as a lifestyle. And I feel like I would enjoy it a lot because I like that idea of freedom. That idea of like being able to just sleep anywhere, wake up anywhere, and not have to pay rent. So like, you don't have to really, what do you need? You need gas and food. So you're like, your reliance on like work and this kind of thing is totally different. Obviously buying a van is expensive, but like, I just think it's, I just really love that kind of idea. It's like a fantasy, So I'm really excited to do it with you this summer for sure. It's going to be really fun.
It's going to be fun. And I think also like, sorry.
No, please.
No, just to finish this van thing, is that when you're traveling, it's very it's such a different experience in the traveling mode you are on, because when you're traveling, usually you have to plan ahead a lot of things,
Right.
even if travel is fun and it's spontaneous, because you are dependent on the next bus or the next flight or the
Right.
next you're all the time, or if you rent a car, you need to return the car in this day, so you have to kind of plan ahead. Maybe sometimes maybe even more than your normal life, day-to-day life.
Yeah,
because
yeah. And
you're
it's like counterintuitive, right? You're trying to do
yeah,
traveling so that you can have an
and
adventure
you don't
and be
want to
free.
you don't want to fuck it up, like missing the flight or missing
Of
the bus,
course, of course.
so you are like in this stress kind of, which is okay as well, you
No,
are
it's a
in the
different
end
type of thing.
you are traveling. But when you have your van, it's such a nice thing that we were traveling last summer we drove from Sweden all the way to Greece, and man, it was the only thing that we were like, we wanted to come in time to the festivals. But beside that, it was just like, okay, we like this place, we stay 2 nights more,
Yeah, yeah.
and sometimes we don't like this place, we drive straight
Definitely.
away.
No, my favorite part of the Euro trip with the van was like, okay, yeah, we need to be here for a festival in a week or two, but on the way, like wherever, and it's such a nice and unique way of traveling, because it is one thing to like, yeah, you can stay in an Airbnb or stay in a hotel somewhere for a while, and maybe you're in a beautiful place and everything, but you're there, you can't go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And with the van, you can do both.
Yeah,
I really love that. I found the patterns, by the way. I just want to quickly show them, because I looked for it. It took me a while to find them. Because I did write on each one like what the actual pattern means, and like this one says house, casa, so this is like literally like what they're using as like a thing to say that, right? And this one says pueblo, person. This one is bell, cascabel. Cascabel
is a type of snake.
A type of snake, huh? Cascabel. So maybe I wrote, maybe I said bell, maybe it's the wrong one, but, and this is fish, pescado, and this is seed, semilla.
Wow, it's amazing.
I'll send you.
You should do something with this.
I do. I mean, I did. I have that face. I need to make some more like.
Okay.
For sure.
I see the normal. The normal map.
Anyway,
nice one,
Diego, it's such a nice time talking to you. I love you so much.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
Super happy we could do this. Took us a little while, but we managed to do it eventually. And I feel inspired, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and congratulations for your idea. And I see that you are doing a lot of videos with very interesting artists, and I've been following all of them. And I have to say congratulations for your amazing job.
Thank you.
And I think it's such a nice mission you have, and you took it for you to gather us all together, This is really beautiful what you're doing, even if maybe I haven't met all the people that you were interviewing. It's like I feel part of a bigger community, and that's such a good thing for us, really.
Hell yeah, dude.
So you're like a pioneer. Ram the pioneer.
What an awesome discussion with an awesome person that I really, really enjoyed. Thank you so much, Diego, for coming on. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you very soon. Thank you to Madismash for the intro and outro music. And next week on the podcast, we have quite the guest. He's a psychedelic robot. See you next week.